Gaza is a small strip of land. It is pinned against the sea, caught between Israel and Egypt. It measures only about 41 kilometers long and 10 kilometers wide. Yet within this confined space, more than 2 million human beings live. A vast number of them are children. Many have never experienced a single day free from the shadow of conflict and blockade. Their lives have been shaped by recurring cycles of violence, by scarcity of resources, and by the slow, grinding pressure of a world that often seems to have forgotten them. They are not statistics. They are people with histories, families, dreams for a future that feels increasingly out of reach. In recent months, the familiar hum of daily life has been replaced by the roar of explosions. A new and devastating wave of violence has swept across the Gaza Strip. Bombs have fallen on crowded cities and small towns alike. Vibrant neighborhoods have been turned into landscapes of gray dust and twisted metal. Homes that once held generations of memories have been reduced to rubble in mere seconds. Hospitals, sanctuaries for the sick and wounded, have themselves become targets. Schools where children learn to read and write have been damaged or destroyed. The human cost is staggering. Thousands are dead. Many more are grievously injured, their bodies and minds scarred by trauma. Essentials of life have become scarce commodities. Families struggle to find clean water to drink. They are desperate for a loaf of bread to quiet their children's hunger. Pharmacists and doctors report bare shelves, with vital medicines and surgical supplies dwindling to nothing. Hope is also in desperately short supply. For many, the future is not a bright horizon, but a dark, uncertain void. They feel trapped, abandoned by a world that issues statements of concern, but allows destruction to continue. The people of Gaza face an existential threat, a struggle for survival against overwhelming odds. We must begin by grounding ourselves in the undeniable facts of this situation. Facts are the foundation for clear understanding and meaningful action. One stark fact: an unprecedented number of civilians in Gaza have been killed or wounded in a very short period. Hospitals, overwhelmed and under-equipped, have issued desperate pleas for help. Staff working to the point of collapse. Aid organizations warn of a catastrophic humanitarian crisis. Food, water, and fuel running dangerously low. In discussions about the current crisis, a powerful and heavily weighted word has emerged: genocide. This term carries with it the memory of humanity's darkest chapters, and its use is never undertaken lightly. According to international law, genocide is defined as specific acts committed with the intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national group, an ethnical group, a racial group, a religious group. These acts can include killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm, deliberately inflicting conditions of life calculated to bring about physical destruction. It is a word that signifies the most extreme form of injustice one people can inflict upon another. The application of this word to the situation in Gaza is a subject of intense debate and profound disagreement. Many governments and international bodies have avoided using it. They point to the complexity of the conflict and the legal requirement to prove intent. They argue military actions are aimed at hostile militants, not the civilian population as a whole. They say civilian casualties are a tragic but unintended consequence of war. They stress the need for a high legal threshold before such a grave accusation can be leveled. This perspective urges caution and warns against language that could further inflame an already volatile situation. Facts and legal definitions can only take our understanding so far. To truly grasp the human toll, we must listen to the stories of the people living through it. Behind every statistic is a face, a name, a life irrevocably altered. Consider the story of Mariam, a mother of 3 young children. Until a few months ago, she lived in a modest apartment in a bustling neighborhood. The laughter of her children, the smell of food cooking on the stove, the quiet murmur of evening conversations. It was her sanctuary. One evening, that sanctuary was obliterated. An airstrike hit a nearby building, shattering windows, bringing down the ceiling. Miraculously, Mariam and her children survived, crawling from the dust and debris into a street filled with smoke and screams. In an instant, they lost everything: their home, their clothes, their cherished family photographs. Left with only the clothes on their backs and a small bag with identity papers and a few precious items. Now they are among hundreds of thousands displaced, searching for shelter in a landscape of ruins. Moving from one makeshift camp to another, seeking safety. She spends her days searching for food and clean water, standing in line for hours for a small portion of bread or a bottle of water. At night, she holds her children close, shielding them from the cold and the terrifying sounds of war. Childhood in Gaza has long been a fragile thing, but for a boy named Sami, it was once filled with color and motion. Sami loved to draw. With a few colored pencils, he could create vibrant worlds on paper: soaring birds, smiling suns. He also loved football, playing for hours with his friends in the narrow alleyways of his neighborhood, his laughter echoing off the concrete walls. He had dreams beyond the Gaza Strip. He wanted to become a teacher, share his love of learning with other children, help them build a better future. That hope was shattered by the shriek of a rocket. It struck a building near his home. The explosion sent shrapnel through the street where he was playing. Sami was severely injured. He awoke in a crowded, chaotic hospital and discovered he had lost his left leg. The life of running, kicking a football, was gone forever. He now navigates with a small wooden crutch, movements careful and deliberate. The physical pain is immense. The psychological wounds run even deeper. Yet Sami's spirit is not completely extinguished. He still draws. His pictures are different now. The colors are darker, the lines more somber. Creation remains a lifeline, a way to process trauma and express what he cannot say. He still manages a smile, a small, brave flicker of light. He is testament to the resilience of the human spirit. But his bravery should not distract from the injustice of his situation. No child should have to be this brave. Sami's story represents a generation of children in Gaza, robbed of their innocence, their bodies and minds scarred by a conflict they did not create. They have seen things no child should witness. They have lost parents, siblings, and friends. They have lost homes, their schools, their sense of safety. Their dreams are being dismantled by the machinery of war. When we see a child like Sami, we are not just seeing one boy's tragedy. We are seeing the theft of a generation's future. His story is a call to our shared humanity, a demand that we act to protect the most vulnerable among us. Faced with such immense suffering, it is easy to feel overwhelmed and powerless. The scale of the crisis can seem so vast that any individual action feels insignificant. But this feeling of helplessness is a dangerous illusion. We are not powerless. As citizens in democratic societies, we possess powerful tools for change. One of the most fundamental of these tools is our voice. We have the right and the responsibility to speak to our elected leaders and demand action to uphold international law and protect human life. The first and most direct step is to contact your representatives. Call their offices. Write them letters and emails. Do not be deterred by the thought that your single message will be ignored. When legislative offices receive a flood of communications, they take notice. In your message, be clear and direct. Tell them you are horrified by the loss of civilian life in Gaza. Ask them to publicly call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire. Demand unimpeded humanitarian aid. Pressure all parties to protect civilians, hospitals, and schools. Beyond individual communication, we can amplify our voices by joining with others. Participate in peaceful protests, vigils, rallies. These public demonstrations are a powerful visual reminder and create solidarity and shared purpose. Support organizations engaged in advocacy work. Lobby governments, brief policymakers. Conduct strategic campaigns. By lending your support, you become part of a larger, organized movement for peace and justice. Use your voice within your community. Talk to friends, family, and colleagues. Share reliable information and personal stories. Many people are uninformed or see a one-sided narrative. A calm, compassionate conversation can open hearts and minds. Write a letter to the editor. Share trusted articles and calls to action. Every conversation, every post, every share builds the public awareness that underpins meaningful political change. While we use our voices to demand political action, we can also provide direct, tangible support to the people suffering on the ground. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza is acute. Aid organizations are working under extreme duress to provide life-saving assistance. Donating money or goods can make a real difference, but it is essential to do so responsibly to ensure your contribution has the maximum impact. The most effective way for most people to help is by donating money to established, reputable aid organizations. Financial donations are generally more effective than sending physical goods. They allow organizations to purchase exactly what is needed and source it locally or regionally. Carefully vet the organizations you choose to support. In times of crisis, fraudulent efforts can appear. Look for established groups with a long history of providing humanitarian aid in conflict zones. Doctors Without Borders, the Palestine Children's Relief Fund, UNRWA, ANERA. Visit their websites. Look for transparency in financial reporting and detailed descriptions of current projects. A trustworthy organization will be clear about how they use donations and what challenges they are facing. Understand the different types of aid that are needed. Food, water, medical supplies. It is also important to support long-term recovery and resilience. Rebuilding homes and infrastructure. Psychosocial support and trauma care for children. Psychosocial support and trauma care for adults. Restoring educational opportunities. Restoring economic opportunities. Some organizations specialize in medical care. Others focus on mental health services. Consider diversifying your support to address both immediate crisis and long-term needs. A small, recurring monthly donation can often be more helpful than a one-time gift, providing a predictable source of funding. Finally, amplify the work of these organizations. After you donate, share their appeals. Many want to help but don't know where to start. Sharing a trusted link provides a clear path and creates a ripple effect. Your role is not just donor, but ambassador, helping build a broader community of care and solidarity. The images and stories emerging from Gaza can easily lead to despair. The sheer scale of the destruction, the depth of the human suffering, and the seeming indifference of global powers can create a profound sense of hopelessness. It is tempting to look away, to tell ourselves the problem is too big, too complex, too far away for us to solve. But we must consciously and deliberately choose hope over helplessness. Hope is not a passive feeling, it is an active choice. It is the conviction that a better future is possible and the commitment to take small, steady actions to build it. This hope is not born of naive optimism. It is grounded in the incredible resilience of the human spirit that we witness even in the darkest of times. In Gaza today, there is hope. In the doctors who continue to perform surgery when the electricity fails. In the nurses who continue care despite shortages. It is present in neighbors who share their last loaf of bread with a family that has none. It is embodied in journalists and citizen reporters who risk their lives to document the truth, so the world cannot say it did not know. This courageous, defiant hope can grow if we nurture it with our solidarity and our action. We are not powerless. Our duty is clear. We must seek the truth and share it. We must help the wounded and the hungry. We must relentlessly push our leaders to abandon the calculus of war and embrace diplomacy and justice. We must stand for the equal value and dignity of every human life. The choice to act is a moral imperative. History will judge us not by our sympathy, but by our actions. Let us not be the generation that stood by and did nothing. Let us commit for the long term. A ceasefire is only the first step. After the bombs fall silent, we must rebuild not just buildings, but lives and trust. There must be accountability for war crimes and a genuine political process addressing root causes, including the occupation and the denial of self-determination. Let us not turn away when headlines fade. Let us stay engaged for a future where no child lives in fear and every family can sleep in peace, secure in their homes and rights.